Ancient Mother, we hear you calling. Today, I want to share with you two stories about human beings struggling to resist oppression and stay loyal to their own religious traditions, their personal faith, and their inner freedom. I'm going to pause for just a moment. I'm getting a message that the camera's out of focus. Let me fix that very quickly. Okay, I think that's fixed it. Thank you for the heads up. It takes a village. So both of the stories I want to share today are about Mary, Mary, the mother of Jesus, not so much Mary, the human being, but she who became such a powerful image of the feminine divine. One of these stories comes to us from Japan at a time when Mary had to be hidden, disguised beneath a beloved heroine of Buddhism because it was not safe to be Christian. The other story comes from the Caribbean and South America, when Mary gave cover to African goddesses brought over by enslaved people for whom it was no longer safe to be anything but Christian. So there is a technical term, just so you know, for the way these people fused their own faith with other traditions. It's called syncretism, 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 which is anytime one religion borrows from one another, adapts a ritual, weaves in a custom, starts celebrating a holiday, that is syncretism. And we Unitarian Universalists have built our own faith like this for generations. We are lucky, I think, that we get to do it by choice. But of course, at other times, it's been different. People, and many times in places, have been forced to convert to dominant religions or to go underground with their true beliefs to preserve their lives. And so these two stories that I want to share today are in salute to the bravery and creativity for all the people who have struggled and are still struggling to practice their faith and express their identity, even when it is not safe. So let's dive right in. The first story comes to us from the Tokugawa period in Japan. Christian missionaries first came to Japan in 1549. They were Catholics from Portugal. This was the moment when Portugal had begun setting up colonies all over Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. So this was part of the colonial project of empire. For a while there, the missionaries to Japan got along just fine with the shoguns, the rulers of Japan at that time. And lots of Japanese people ended up converting and embracing Christianity. But then, after a few years, the government changed. And the new rulers, this was for those of you history geeks, this was first Hideyoshi and then the Tokugawa dynasty. These newer rulers wanted to resist Western political and cultural domination. And so one of the ways they did that was by outlawing Christianity. 65 years after the first Western missionaries arrived in Japan, they were banned. This was the year 1614. All the missionaries were either kicked out of the country or executed. And for regular Japanese people, simply being Christian became a crime. And so what happened? Well, Christianity went underground. Many Japanese people continued to practice Christian rituals, only now in disguise. So you probably know that images of the Virgin Mary have always been important to Catholics in every culture. Well, now Japanese Christian artists began to create sculptures of Mary, but in disguise. They disguised her as Kannon, the Buddhist bodhisattva of compassion. You might have heard of her by her Japanese name, Kannon. She's also called Kanzeon. She's called Guanyin in China, Tara in Tibet. And she's one of the most important bodhisattvas in the Buddhist tradition. And just in case you're not familiar with this wonderful idea, to recap, a bodhisattva is someone who starts out as a normal human being. And through their commitment to their spiritual practice, they reach enlightenment. And so, if they wanted, they could enter nirvana and know perfect peace forever. But they turn back. They make a vow not to enter nirvana until all beings are enlightened and free from suffering. So in a way, they're very much like the Catholic saints, the people who were so good on earth that now they keep on helping people from heaven. So back to Kannon or Guanyin, she's the bodhisattva of compassion. She is loved throughout the Mahayana Buddhist world. And so when Japanese Christians had to hide their faith, it only made sense that they saw the commonalities between Kannon and Mary. And so they were able to hide their beloved Mary under this disguise of Kannon. I have some pictures to share with you. Let me call them up for you now. Okay, here we are. So this first image, this is Mary as the figure of Kannon. This is a 17th century Buddhist sculpture. Does that look like a Mary to you? I think it's wonderful how these cultural influences are, things adapt and are shared. Okay, another image for you. Check it out. This is Mary with baby Jesus. Check it out. Isn't that beautiful? This is her in a Japanese incarnation. And again, this one is from 17th century Japan. One more image. This is not quite on track, but I got to show you this. Let me show you this next image. Okay, check it out. This is Jesus on the cross, Bodhisattva style. I don't know if you can see it. I want to draw your attention. There's a cross, which you can probably make out. In the center of the cross, there is Jesus, who looks very much like a Buddha, sitting with his hands in Namaste, cross-legged, as a Buddhist figure would do. So that's Jesus, Japanese 17th century style. So also, I'll leave that up so you can look at it a little longer. But also, so have you ever seen a Japanese tea ceremony? I can't really see hands, but actually, no, I can see the sanctuary cam. How many people, wave your hand if you've seen a Japanese tea ceremony? Yeah, some people. Okay. So the founder of the modern tea ceremony was a man named Senno Rikyu. And Rikyu was a young man when Christianity first came to Japan. And by the time he died, the government was starting to persecute Christians. Rikyu's wife and three of his seven tea disciples were Christians. And so the tea ceremony he created became a way for some Japanese Christians to practice the central ritual of Christianity, which is communion. On your left is a Japanese tea bowl, and on your right, a communion chalice. If you've ever seen a tea ceremony, you know that it includes a whole series of very precise ritual actions. So I wonder if you could see how it might be used as a veiled communion ritual, drinking from a shared bowl. And indeed, some tea bowls from this era, if you can turn them over and look on the bottom, you'll see they're marked with a small cross. And so today, scholars think that these actually were communion bowls created by Japanese Christians as a way to practice their faith in secret. Those underground Japanese Christians survived for 250 years until Christianity was legalized again in 1867. Generations cared so much about their tradition that they risked their lives for it. Ancient Mother, we hear you calling. So I've paused the share. I'm going to have a few pictures later, but I want to invite you now to travel to a different place with me in your mind. We're going to head to South America now. And as you know, beginning in the early 16th century, millions of Africans were forcibly brought to the Americas and enslaved. Many of them were from the Yoruba region of West Africa, which is today part of Nigeria, Benin, and Togo. The Yoruba people had and still have today an amazing religious tradition. It's very rich, very complex. They tell stories of the creator god, Olodumare. They talk about the divine energy they call Ashe. And there is a whole pantheon of gods and goddesses, which are called the Orishas, Orishas, Orisha, singular, Orishas, plural. Each one of these orishas, they're like gods and goddesses, have their own personality. They all rule over different things. And most people in this tradition feel drawn to one or two orishas, maybe, and have a special relationship with them. People connect with them through perhaps building altars for them, leaving offerings for them, little gifts that express the orisha's personality. And there's also a practice of spirit possession. There's a whole tradition of training people to alter their consciousness and invite the felt experience of being taken over by the Orisha. So, when Yoruba people came to the Americas as slaves, they brought their religion with them. But it was not safe for them to practice openly because slave owners forced them to become Christians or at least to pretend. And so, like the Japanese Christians, they began to hide their gods and goddesses under religious forms that were acceptable to the dominant culture. Only this time, it was the other way around. And so, in Cuba, in Brazil, in Jamaica, all over the Caribbean, the Africans disguised their orishas as saints. And that fusion of their Yoruba religious tradition with Catholicism created what we now call Santeria in Cuba, Candomblé in Brazil, Voodoo in Haiti. People who follow these traditions continue to honor the Orishas with offerings and altars. They practice spirit possession and they love the Orishas in both their African form and also dressed as the saints. So let me share with you. Give me one moment to get where I need to be. Okay, let me share with you. Okay, here we are. Let me introduce you, please, to Oshun. Oshun is the goddess of rivers, of love, beauty, intimacy, also goddess of wealth, diplomacy, and harmony. In Cuba, among practitioners of Santeria, she is also known as the Virgin Mary in her particular form as Our Lady of Charity, La Virgen de la Caridad del Cobre, the patron saint of Cuba. Oshun's color is yellow. It is said that she loves mirrors, honey, and anything that is beautiful. That is Oshun. I want to show you someone else. So this is Yemayá. In Africa, she is the mother goddess, patron of women. In Brazil, she's the goddess of the ocean. In Cuba, the goddess of water and all living things. Cubans offer to her melons, molasses, and fish. And Yemayá is also known as another manifestation of Mary. Thousands of Cubans celebrate her every year in September with a special procession of her statue at the Church of Our Lady of Regla. In statue form, she is Mary. This is the image you see to your right. But as she goes by in the procession, the people throw offerings into the sea and whisper prayers to her as Yemayá, a goddess in disguise. Ancient Mother, we hear you calling. So today, Santeria and all the other religious traditions that I mentioned that evolved out of traditional Yoruba religion are practiced today by millions of people all over the Caribbean and South America and in the United States as well. They don't have to hide anymore. And likewise today, the Japanese descendants of those secret Christians are also free to practice the religion of their choice. But out of their ancestors' struggles has come this incredible beauty, these new forms and new ways of being religious. Kannon becomes Mary, becomes Oshun and Yemayá, and back again. This is how it is. People everywhere meet their suffering with incredible courage and creativity. So much beauty comes out of this. And because today we too might find ourselves in need of that brilliant divine energy of Mary and Kannon, Oshun and Yemayá, I want to close with a poem by the contemporary American poet Alison Luterman. This is called Some Girls. Some girls can't help it. They are lit sparklers, hot-blooded, half-naked in the depths of winter, tagging moving trains with the bright insignia of their fury. I've seen their inked torsos, falcons, swans, meteor showers, and shadowed their secret rendezvous walking and flying all night over paths traced like veins through the deep body of the forest, while they are trying on their new wings, rising to power with a ferocious mercy not seen before in the cities of men. Having survived slander, abuse, and every kind of exile, they're swooping down even now from treetops where they were roosting, wearing robes woven of spider webs and pigeon feathers. They have pulled the living child out of the flames and are prepared to take charge through the coming apocalypse. I have learned that some girls are boys, some are birds, some are oases ringed with stalking lions. See, I cannot even name them, although one of them is looking out through my eyes right now. One of them is writing all this down with light struck fingers.